Told you I was gonna come back with the video about the Pope and his hat that represents the Dagon, which is the fish god. So they worship the fish god. So the Pope hat, and I'm gonna prove it to y'all, is shaped like a fish with its mouth open, which is the Dagon god, the fish god, who they worship. So here it is, the Pope got on a Dagon hat, which represent the fish god. So how could you have two gods, worship two gods, ladies and gentlemen? So it's deep, y'all. It's deep over here. I told you we over here to crack heads and bring awareness to the mass that you've been bamboozled and hoodwinked in all these religions, y'all. It's all a cult, which they all follow the Baphomets or some type of god, human god, which the Most High say you only should worship him. How could you worship two gods? Like I said, even some of y'all have three gods. Let's get into the video.
The Roman Catholic Church. For those with a keen eye, it is well known that the powers that be hold many secrets and hidden agendas in order to mislead the masses from seeing the true nature of the way things are. The privatized library house within the Great Walls of the Vatican being one of the clearest and most glaring signs of housing a significant source of hidden knowledge. But just how deep do the mysteries surrounding one of the world's most prevalent religions really go? In this video, we will be taking a deep look into the iconic and historical headdress and attire of the appointed leader of the Church, the Pope. What we see here is an image of the Pope. Now I want to bring attention to two different aspects of this visual. The first being that of the hat the Pope wears on his head. This is better known as a Pope's mitre. What we will soon discover is that this headdress holds immense symbolic importance and has been systematically implemented into the sacred attire of every pope dating as far back as the 9th century AD. However, I am of the suspicion that this Pope's mitre hat has actually been worn for much longer than that, and that it was only incorporated into the publicly worn attire recently. The second thing I want to bring attention to is the Pope's appearance. This was not originally a part of the script, but I couldn't help but notice that all the popes seem to have this sunken, dark-eyed and somewhat ghoulish appearance to them. If I know one thing about lifestyle and karma, it is that the type of life you lead will invariably reflect itself in the overall quality of your appearance. Which only further leads me into speculating what types of lives these supposed holy men actually lead. The entire motivation behind the creation of this video revolves around a very strange and bizarre connection between the Roman Catholic Church and this mysterious deity. This is an ancient Babylonian deity worshipped by the Philistines over 2,000 years ago known as Dagon, the fish god. However, during my research I couldn't find what exactly was a
There he is there, y'all. Dagon, the fish god. See the hat? See the fish shaped like a fish, a human body with a fish body, a lower extremities.
Philistine, other than that they were a heretical group that didn't follow the mainstream customs and doctrines of the church. Now when we look back at the Pope's mitre hat, we can begin to see that if viewed from a sideways angle, we can see that there is a striking resemblance between the Pope's mitre hat and the image of Dagon.
The priest of Dagon, or the god himself, and he's wearing a fish head and the body of a fish down his back. So now we see the Pope's headdress. On the top is the Pope's mitre.
See that?
But when turned, you then see he's actually wearing a fish head, the fish god Dagon, because he's representing the worship of an ancient Phoenician god.
See that?
So this is why today Christians on the back of their cars, you will see, have a fish symbol. I'm thinking that that's to denote them as Christians worshiping Jesus. No, it's a fish symbol because it's denoting Dagon, the fish god. The significance is Dagon was a very important mystical god to the ancient peoples in the Middle East, in Babylonia, Sumeria, Phoenicia, Canaan. And that very powerful mystical God is still dominating the spirit and the intellectual thinking of religion, even to today.
Yeah. See all that? See that? See that?
Today. So it's not Jesus that's influencing the Vatican and the Pope. It's Dagon, the fish god. That's the.
Why would the Roman Catholic Church symbolically venerate an ancient Babylonian deity? What is the significance of Dagon, the fish god? The mystery continues. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to subscribe so you can be notified.
Then suddenly I saw it, with only a slight churning to mask its rise to the surface. The thing slid into view above the dark waters, vast, Polyphemus-like and loathsome. It darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. I think I went mad then. Dagon is a deity that I've mentioned in passing, and some of you may recall the narration of Lovecraft's short story titled Dagon, but surprisingly enough I haven't made a video devoted to this particular character. The first real descriptions we get of Dagon appear in Lovecraft's short story titled After the Deity, written in July 1917, and later published in the November issue of the Vagrant magazine in 1919. In this particular story, our narrator is an unnamed, morphine-addicted man who recounts his experience when his cargo ship is captured by a German sea raider during World War I. He eventually manages to escape on a lifeboat, but ends up drifting aimlessly. But he does notice the water resembles a horrid black sludge and is littered with the carcasses of decaying fish. Eventually the seabed becomes dry enough to walk on, and after several days he comes across a gigantic monolith made of white stone, with aquatic hieroglyphics etched onto it. The narrator then describes sculptures of figures that he believes to be men but who also resembled fish, almost worshipping this monolith. This of course refers back to the deep ones, but perhaps not the ones we see in Shadow of Innsmouth. These figures are described as being similar in size to a whale. This may be referring back to the ancient deep ones, which were also called Dagon, likely because they were much larger in size, similar to the deity they worshipped. The narrator then describes a vast Polyphemus-like, stupendous monster of nightmares, with large scaly arms and a hideous head. Seeing this creature wrap itself around the monolith, the narrator then flees for his life into a great storm. We don't know for sure if the figure he saw was Dagon himself or just an ancient deep one, but we are led to believe that the man's descent into madness and drug addiction came from witnessing the great deep one. Dagon is mentioned quite often throughout Lovecraft's work, and sometimes he goes by the name of Father Dagon, who along with Mother Hydra rule over the Deep Ones, or so we're led to believe. We know Dagon was considered a great old one, but we don't know exactly what he looked like, other than a gigantic, scaly, amphibious humanoid, so you are free to use your own imagination to a certain degree. Dagon is of course worshipped by the Deep Ones, but he does also have a human cult located back in Innsmouth, known as the Esoteric Order of Dagon, which perform rituals to appease the Deep Ones as well as their leader. There is one theory that claims Dagon wasn't always a deity. He may have once been a regular Deep One, until he was chosen by the Starspawn of Cthulhu. The Starspawn were known for selecting individuals from a species and then giving them the ability to protect and empower the rest of that species. They normally only select the most impressive specimens. What they saw in Dagon, however, and why they do this, we don't know. It's possible that Lovecraft drew his inspiration from Dagon, the Mesopotamian god of fertility, as well as Dagon, the Philistine god of agriculture that also features in the Old Testament. There was also the misinterpretation of the god's name in Hebrew during the Iron Age, which led to him being seen as the god of fish. So I guess it does make some sense that the god of fish became Lovecraft's god of weird fish-men hybrids. I honestly don't really know. Trying too hard to make sense of Lovecraft's work seems to be a fast track down the path of insanity, and I guess that's what he intended. So before I do go insane and anger any more fish people, I guess I'll end the video here. Feel free to share any thoughts with me in the comments below.